How's everybody doing? Good? Look at you all. Look at the bags under everybody's eyes. How many people went to sleep before 11 o'clock last night? Yeah. I am so excited. Today is the day for me. I'm a huge geek, and I love geek rock stars. We've got Derek DeKirchhoff here, and another person that we've met a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, and I just think he's one of the smartest guys out there. This is the CEO of Bit Torrent, Eric Klinker. Any broadcasters here? Anyone who makes content? If you make content, this is the guy.
The fruit is somewhere under your chair, I think. So.
Yeah. So what we're just gonna, we don't have a lot of time, but we could spend 2 hours talking about BitTorrent. But there has been some huge developments recently, and my company actually uses this. So this is me, Jumpwire, and what I did about 3 years ago is I called Eric and I said, listen, I want all your data. And he says, that's a nice idea, but we don't keep any of it because we're getting sued every week.
Well, not true, but we would be, I think, if we did. So.
Yeah, we would be if they did. So he said, but I know a guy. So I talked to this guy, and now he works with me, and we basically take all of the content on BitTorrent, all of the data on it, and we use it to help people leverage their content better. Meaning that we can tell you where things are being downloaded, what cities they're being downloaded in, how often they're being downloaded. We help the BBC find $100,000 for one of their shows. So this is the future. But I don't really want to talk about what we do. I know it is always about me, but it's really not. So what we quickly, if you're not sure what BitTorrent is, I'm going to play this little video. It's 30 seconds long. It's a good way to help you understand how BitTorrent works. Uh-oh. It's okay. No one panic. No one panic.
The people who are sharing this information or trying to get this information from someone who has it, every one of them grabs a couple of different pieces. It's as if I had a book or a film, let's say a film, and the film was 1,000 frames long, and I broke it up into 1,000 separate frames, and I handed one frame to 1,000 people. But then I told the 1,000 people about each other, and then I let them pick up the frames from each other rather than having them all get the frames from me. So what happens is the more people who are trying to get the frames to this film, the easier it is for every successive person to get a frame of this film.
Pretty cool. So that is BitTorrent. And what we want to sort of talk about today is I want to look at some of the, actually before I get to that side, I'd like to get to some of the content initiatives. And Eric, can you just talk a little bit about what you're doing at BitTorrent, how you're changing this world, and how people are really starting to make a lot of money?
Yeah, I think that a couple presentations ago, the book was called The Pirate's Dilemma. I think that's probably my job. The challenge we have is the technology is what we do. We are a technology company. We build technology. A couple presentations ago, very emphasized point that technology is value neutral. Our big challenge is that the technology gets used for things that don't make us many friends in certain parts of the world, ISPs and media to be specific. So the challenge for the company has been to, and we are a company, venture-backed, is to find ways that this technology can add tremendous value to these constituencies, and hopefully over time, the value of the technology begins to be legitimized in the eyes of the rights holders and the media industry, and we have similar challenges on the ISP side. So one of the big areas that we want to focus on and have been focusing on really since the company was born is this idea of content. Can we create a content value proposition? We've had more failures than successes in this regard. We started out in a rather ham-fisted way with, I'd say, an effort in 2006, a little bit before I joined, of licensing massive amounts of content and then trying to present that licensed content to the user in a
Who are you licensing from?
All the major studios, sort of MTV, Fox, Lionsgate, MGM, anybody that is anybody in Hollywood. I think we had over 50 content partners, all names you would recognize, and we got their content.
Whoa. You were licensing from all these people that are now sending out all these cease and desist, and they were okay with that?
Yeah, of course, because we were building, again, a traditional distribution model, traditional in their eyes, around this new technology, BitTorrent. Now, as you might expect, this didn't resonate particularly well with the users on the internet because it was, again, a traditional business model. Content was windowed, content had DRM, content had all these sort of consumer-facing friction that makes content something less than the DVD when it's online. And I think anytime you take content that is a good experience on a DVD and put it online and make it a worse experience, which is what digital content does, you're going to have consumer-facing challenges there. And of course, this effort was no exception. So to pivot out of that, what I would deem a failure, we have been looking at the massive amount of content that wants to be discovered, the pirate radio, if you will, the stuff that sits on the edge that is waiting to become the next trend. And we found a lot of interesting stuff to do there, and that's what we've been really working on for, say, the last 18 months or so. A lot of good successes with content that wants to be discovered first and foremost, and then wants to find a sort of internet-friendly business model that they can wrap around it. And I suspect that's been a topic of conversation for the last 4 or 5 days.
And I think the interesting thing is that what we're finding in our research, and I've just brought up the Pioneer One slide, this was the first TV show that was released only on BitTorrent. It was done about a year and a half ago. And they're now up to 3 episodes, and they're making money. They're making a considerable amount of money, actually, if you consider that they're filmmakers. The other side of it, too, is that we have a situation where Paramount has now released a movie on, do you want to, actually, no, we'll do Pioneer One first. I'm getting ahead of myself. See, I have my thing here, and I'm not looking at it. With Pioneer One, it went up. Do you want to just explain like the side behind it?
Yeah, so I think the trick here, and this is a trick that the filmmakers understood, the content on the internet suffers from this value and scarcity issue. It's kind of sort of falls down to basic economics. If something is valuable and scarce, you can make money from it. Content on the internet is valuable, yes, not particularly scarce. So here's the challenge. These filmmakers understood that the value of future content is very scarce. If I don't get funding and you like this series, guess what? Episodes 3, 4, 5, 6 aren't going to get made. And that's the approach that they took with this sort of episodic television episode that they released strictly on BitTorrent. And it's been very successful. The idea that the series caught a fan base and they used copious amounts of free distribution to get that fan base has resulted in those fans contributing and supporting future episodes that frankly wouldn't have been made without their support. And I think some of the statistics, if you have, I'm not sure if you have some numbers, they made a decent amount of money, enough to keep the series going. But more importantly, the content in their minds as creators has been, I think, viewed over 3 million times, 2 or 3 million times, I'm not sure. Oh, these are the stats. So those numbers are just phenomenal for an independent filmmaker. I mean, these numbers approach things that you might get on cable distribution. Battlestar Galactica might have these kinds of numbers in terms of viewership and downloads. So very successful model, and I think they're onto something, again, understanding the basic economics on the internet and content, value, scarcity, Econ 101.
And just because we're at a content conference, I'm going to pop back before I go back to that slide, don't worry. We should tell you just a little bit about the actual show, what it is. I mean, it's essentially, it's like Lost, except it's a cosmonaut that comes from Mars back to Earth, and they can't figure out why he came back. And I went and saw it in New York, and it was made by a couple of filmmakers, and I hadn't really seen it, and I went to the viewing, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be really awful. I'm like, but I want to support BitTorrent, so I'm like, okay, I'm there. I was blown away. These guys had written an entire series, and it was very good, like very compelling, considering that they had made the first episode for $16,000 and pulled in a lot of favors. I mean, now they did it on Kickstarter. I talked about it last year. They raised $7,500 on Kickstarter, which is a thing in the States where you can go and put something up and people will donate for it. And then on the other side here is that when you click through to the actual website, you had an opportunity to donate. $15 got you rights to the MP3, $25 got your name in the credits, $200 got X, Y, and Z, a meeting with the filmmaker. Then there was, I think it was $1,000, you got to be actually in one of the episodes, probably walking by like this then getting cut. But I'm an excellent walker. I don't know about you.
I'll look forward to you.
So $55,000 in donations from the audience. I mean, this is from their audience. And then when I talked to Jamie at Vodo, so Vodo is one of these sort of areas, they're almost like a curator, almost like a little network. And we work quite closely with them now because we can take people's content and we can guarantee them 500,000 downloads. So Vodo has so much, people really, what Jamie does at Vodo, people really like what he puts up, and they know and trust him. So when he puts something up, it gets immediate downloads. And he's very, very choosy. I mean, we've talked to him about a bunch of different movies and things. He's like, no, I don't think that's going to work for my audience. So he's become a channel programmer. And there's groups of these people that are actual influencers. So here you can see, and I talked to him a couple days ago, and I said, listen, can you give me some stats so I can tell some of the content providers? And he said, yes, if you do the donations it's done through PayPal, or you hit the donate button and you say 25, they give you 75% of that, and they keep 25%. They went and got a sponsorship from .tv, which is the VeriSign, owned by VeriSign, and they got $30,000 in sponsorship, which was $10,000 per episode. So 25% to Vodo and 75% to the content owner. And I think that this is a viable way to make content. I mean, yeah, it's not big numbers if you work at big networks, but imagine that number has a couple more zeros after it and becomes $5 million because lots of people are able to download. I think that it's a unique way forward, and I just want to move on to some of the other ones that you released. I guess Sick of Sarah is probably a good example.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the success in Pioneer One led us to thinking that there's a real opportunity for this platform and for creators that want this kind of exposure. So that led to this thing we call the Artist Spotlight, where we just basically, without a lot of marketing, we opened up a landing page on our website and say, if you have content and you'd like to leverage this distribution channel, we want to help you, and here's where you can submit your content. That led to the band Sick of Sarah, which is a label, a signed band, I think Adamant Records, signing up for this program. So we thought, okay, here's really good content. It's been curated by a label. We understand the value of this content. Let's try it. And it was, I think, even more successful than Pioneer One. We didn't do this through Vodo. This is music. These are, I think, a girl punk band is the genre. And this has seen, again, I think, over 1.5 million downloads. It was done 4 weeks ago. And it's still getting about 10,000 downloads a day. So the way it works is we put the offer in front of new client installs. So when somebody looks for the BitTorrent technology, they're given an offer to check out this band or check out this film. They can opt into that.
And Eric, I should probably just jump in and say that you actually have to download an application to your, if you haven't used BitTorrent before, you actually download an application to your computer, and it allows you to share it. But each time you download that, and I think that what I got excited about a couple of years ago is that Eric said we had like 30,000 downloads a day of your app.
500,000.
Oh, sorry, I meant 500,000. I didn't really sleep. That's
okay.
500,000 downloads, and he says, I can put anything I want on that. Now, I don't know about you, but so immediately we were at a TV conference, I was pairing him up with people saying, listen, you should just put your content on BitTorrent because you're going to have, just in the app itself, you're going to have 500,000 downloads. I mean, how many of us here, if you made content and someone said, I'm going to give you 500,000 downloads tomorrow, you'd be like, no, I'm not really interested. Considering social media and how you can push it and how you can leverage that, it's an incredible way to get your content out there. And at the time when we were talking about it, I remember we had a conversation with a gentleman, and he just sat there like this going, never, it will never happen. And I'm like, but it's 500,000. That's more than most cable subscribers. So so it is an application you download, sorry.
Yeah, that's right. And think of the BitTorrent client as analogous to a web browser for another protocol, the BitTorrent protocol, and that's the role we play in the ecosystem. But nevertheless, ham-fisted though it may be, just brute forcing a piece of content in front of these users without really trying to understand where these users are, trying to understand their interests, we're seeing tremendous uptake. And it tends to run for about a week. I think we ran Sick of Sarah for 3 or 4 days, took it away, and the residual effects in the ecosystem are still pretty substantial. They're still getting 10,000 downloads a day from that experiment.
And how are they monetizing it? Where do
well, they weren't particularly interested in monetizing it. They were interested in driving fan adoption first and foremost. So the call to action front and center is like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. A more sophisticated offering might be, I see you're coming from Omaha. This is the closest tour date in Omaha or near Omaha. That would have been a much more sophisticated approach, and I think we're trying to build these capabilities into the platform slowly over time. But that's the call to action that Sick of Sarah was interested in, the band. and we were more than happy to accommodate them. They weren't asking for donations or anything, expecting to drive tours. and
So they're
merch.
just using this as promotion, essentially.
Yeah, marketing.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to the tunnel. This is the Paramount release.
Yeah, so this is something we're actually pretty excited about. It's coming out on May 19th, I believe. This is, again, another one of BitTorrent community-funded movies. Their donation model is slightly different. I think you can buy individual frames. Each frame costs $1. There's about 130,000 frames in a typical movie. Then, nevertheless, these content creators are very savvy marketers, and they've been very good at generating interest in this film, to the extent that Paramount Pictures is going to pick it up on DVD, direct-to-DVD, consistent, or I think on the same day as they launch on BitTorrent. So again, we're working with these folks. We're hoping to drive massive amounts of distribution. I've seen the screener. It's actually very good content, sort of Blair Witch meets sci-fi scary horror is probably the best way I could describe it, but has all the makings of a hit, and we're hoping to give them probably on the order of 3 to 5 million downloads.
So how do you predict the 3 to 5 million?
We're just guessing. We don't. And that's, I think, where the platform really does need to evolve, understanding the nature of the audience, giving the artists the kind of feedback that they need to either refine their projects or make money from their projects to drive other transmedia opportunities. This is, I think, an area where we're working particularly hard, but we're not media people. We are technology people. We move bits. And that's where we really need creators that want to innovate with us using this channel to work with us. And the Tunnel folks have been very supportive, and we're very happy to have them on board.
I want to go, I know it's crazy, but I want to go to questions. I have lots of things to ask Eric, but this is an opportunity you get to talk to the CEO of BitTorrent, and you can ask him the difficult stuff. I've done it. I've done the hard stuff, and he will answer. So are there questions out there that you guys, if not, I've got lots more questions. Don't worry if you're shy. Yeah, Stuart, is there great, thank you.
Hi, thanks. Can I come back to the beginning? The idea of if you have 1 million downloads, 2 million downloads, you can get amazing data on who those people are and do stuff with them.
Yeah.
And kind of the problems of people maybe not wanting to give up their data because they feel like someone else will be looking at it. How are you walking that line of getting people to share the data on themselves that will help people do stuff with it?
Yeah, there's two sides of that line, and you brought up one that the users themselves, especially BitTorrent users, are particularly concerned about privacy. And the other challenge is from, again, the ways that BitTorrent is allowed to innovate are in a very confined box, confined by copyright law. We can do things, we can't do other things. And there are challenges in both directions. For the users, we're very cognizant of the user's concern for privacy. And if you go back to the browser analogy, it's probably consistent. The early browsers didn't have tracking cookies, and the early content on the web was all about free. So you can start to see some consistencies in how the web evolved and how we expect BitTorrent to evolve. Will there ever be a BitTorrent client that has tracking cookies in it and users are sort of walked around the web? I don't know. There are today third-party agencies that do a lot of digging into BitTorrent. Gavin's is one of them, and there are others, to provide that kind of media metrics, ComScore-like, you name it, analogous to what happens on the web. You'll see businesses popping up on the BitTorrent site as well.
And the important thing to remember is that all the data that we get is public and freely available. Yep. If you remember that video that was running, there was a little circle in the center. That's called the tracker. All we do is place a sophisticated software system over top of that and take that data off. Anyone can do it. I mean, if you want to challenge me and my business, go for it. You can do it. It's not hard. Well, it is harder. But we have a PhD on staff who cleans the data. And what we found is that when we went 6 or 7, about a year and a half ago, when I talked to Eric about it, what I found is that when we did research into it as a business, is that the data that most people are putting out of there, our competitors, was really dirty data. In fact, it wasn't exact. So when I talked to Leonard, who runs all of our data cleaning, we went and looked at everyone else's data, and I said, is there an opportunity here? He said, yes, we have the best data. Now, I will tell you, it's an extremely tough sell. People don't want to buy this. As soon as they hear the word BitTorrent, they're like, no. We've been in rooms with big organizations, who I will remain nameless, where the president is actually sitting at the table with 19 people around the table that must cost probably $100,000 to get them all in the place at the same time, and 2 lawyers know it's BitTorrent. Even though we've got a president sitting at the table saying, could be making millions of dollars, and the lawyers are like, no, it's BitTorrent. I got yelled at by a policy analyst for half an hour about BitTorrent. So what I'm here today to do is, and why we really wanted to bring Eric over, is that there's real opportunities for those forward thinkers like you, right? See what I did there? Made you guys the good guys. Let's talk a little bit about Facebook, because you both have investors. You both have the same investors.
Yep.
Can you talk about the integration? Because now with Warner Brothers now being on Facebook, which I didn't realize, and I learned here from the Facebook guy, that was done by a third party and not Facebook. Facebook is actually the platform by Myobi or someone. They were the ones that actually built it, that actually works on it. What are you guys doing with them? Because it seems like a good integration.
Yeah, so we're not, so you're right, we do share a common investor in Excel, and Excel was a Series A lead of Facebook. We're not in a position to discuss today what the actual offerings will look like, but you can start to think just at basic levels, what does BitTorrent do really well? It moves large files. Facebook is really good at sharing photos, but wouldn't it be great if you could share large files like my iPhone can rip off in 30 seconds of video, half a gig? I can't email that. I can't post it to Facebook. What can I do with that? I think there's a great opportunity to marry the phenomenal efficiency of BitTorrent with that type of content. And then when you also layer in the device initiative that we have, where we want to get all content, whether it's personal or whether it is independent content or whatever that content may be, we want to get that content quickly and seamlessly to the television, then I think you've started to connect an ecosystem that if I could share this personal video through Facebook, where my friends are, and leverage BitTorrent to move the bits in an efficient way that costs Facebook nothing, then grandma can play the video of my daughter's soccer game seamlessly. And that's what we want to do.
This is this thing that drives me crazy for the last years, and I don't think that everybody really understands how genius this technology is. The more people that share, the less bandwidth you require. So you've got 500 million people on Facebook, and instead of having servers streaming video, you can have all those 500 million people being little data points that allow them to make it cost zero to share video. I mean, when you start thinking about it, you're like, why is, you can see the possibilities of how it's all going to get in. And I think that the important thing to remember is that what BitTorrent started out was being able to share large files quickly and easily without it costing a lot of bandwidth. Yeah. So I do want to just continue on, because there is some trending that we've seen at our research, is that BitTorrent is people are downloading less, and now they want to stream more. So there's a lot more people that are just, even in our office, he shall remain nameless, Kevin, he sometimes downloads, he said he's downloading less and he's basically streaming more. And I think that there's that generation that are now going to the streaming sites. We've been trying to track them down in Poland. If anybody knows anybody, please let us know. We've talked to a couple people, but they won't really talk to us because they don't want anyone to know who they are. And as you probably know, the sites are pulled down every single day. But I just want you to sort of, talk about how you're innovating around that.
Yeah, so I think there's no question that streaming is a user experience that people want. YouTube proved it. YouTube proved that a streaming piracy site is something that people want, but fortunately Google took it over just in time. So there's no question that experience is important and the instant gratification is important. There are efforts underway to stream BitTorrent, of course. We can do progressive download. If the content is richly seeded enough, you can get a streaming-like experience in any given swarm. But what's probably more interesting is some work that Bram's been doing for the last year. Bram is our co-founder, chief scientist, the one who invented this protocol 10 years ago. And he has been working on a live variant where you can live stream to millions of people, again, at zero cost and at low latency. Very technically tricky to do, but you can imagine instant applications for something like this. An application on my iPhone, I could be streaming this audience today, and at zero cost to me and with no infrastructure and no servers, that could be viewed by 1 million people. That could be very powerful.
You just gloss over this stuff. No servers.
Yeah, very hard.
And it's close, right? He's close to being able to do it.
He's done some public betas. If you're interested in it, there's information on our website. You can join the public betas. We'll probably do a Ustream Puppies kind of long-running video here pretty soon, where folks can get on board and check this technology out. We hope to have the mobile version ready for our 10th anniversary party in September, where we'll probably have one of the bands we're working with play at that party, and we will live stream that to the internet globe.
Wow. Any other questions? Yes, over here, Matt.
Hey.
Wait for the mic.
So, really interested in the data, really awesome to hear about what you guys are doing. Who's your audience, broadly? That would be my first question as a media person.
Yeah, to the extent that we track them, we know where they are, where they're growing. We know geographies of downloads. So we have a strong presence, as you might expect, all over the world. I think we touch every single country. We have data on every ISP, but we stop at what they do. So I know where they are, and I can get, through Quantcast and others, I can get interesting data on the potential makeup of that user that skews, as you might expect, 18 to 34-year-old males, and it skews in emerging markets. We have the #1 country, I think, is Russia. The #2 country is the US. So it's broad, but as you might expect, it skews in certain areas where infrastructure is poor. India is very big. Southeast Asia is very big. But then I say that in the same breath, our #3 country is South Korea, where infrastructure is fantastic. So it's hard to find the correlation in there, but it's worldwide, 100 million active users a month. These are monthly people that use the software in any given month, and it's still growing, and it's growing in all regions. So,
how do you sort of interface with media buyers if someone comes to you and says, I need to buy 1 million 18 to 24-year-old males who are interested in sports cars in India? Can you service them? Can you do that yet?
So you've struck our naivete around content. Again, I really do wish we had a better relationships with the content industry, because I think there's a lot of things we could do. As technologists, we're pretty ham-fisted in all of this. So everything we want to do, we're building a portion of the organization around content, around advertising, around subscription. Any way you might imagine monetizing on the internet, we're very interested in doing that. Of course, to get ad buys, you have to have very good data on the nature of these users. So these are the challenges we're grappling with right now.
Hey, Matt, I can probably give you a little bit of insight. We're also, we're seeing a lot of these downloads, and the demographics is a big thing. And what we can do on BitTorrent is that we can actually poll people. So the community, the BitTorrent community, loves getting information, loves being a part of something. So we can put up a poll and say, are you between 18 to 24? And we get back all sorts of great information. So we track down to a city. So we can see what city is doing. So we can see that Sex and the City is trending in Seattle, and we can see that Heroes is trending in New York. So we go to the DVD companies who are slowly going out of business and say, you know what, if you're going to put something on the shelves, you should probably put on Sex and the City in Seattle. And that's not necessarily demographic related, but we can also take some of the postal code stuff and get an idea, just big scope ideas. So it's something we're working on. We're trying to have a dashboard so that people can sit down and type in their show and then be able to see all the stats in real time. But there are some issues, and it's really trying to. The people that need to buy it are the ones that are most terrified of it. And so with Paramount coming on board, it's starting to give some legitimacy. We had 2 calls last week. Is that now that people know what's going on? And I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm going to. We are Fast Company, which is a big magazine in the U.S., named us one of the top 10. We're number 10. We just made it on with most top 10 innovative companies in media, based on the fact that we're using this BitTorrent data to sort of track content. So for them to put us on there underneath Twitter and the Huffington Post, and it was big for us, but at the same time, you can see the uphill battle. You would think that this would be like 1,000 room. We're basically standing here saying there's millions of dollars out there, and you guys, you would think that all the broadcasters would be here, but it's a tough hill to climb. So it's not over yet. I think we have to wrap it up there. I don't know where Morvan went. Are we done? Yeah. We have to. Is there anyone else have a pressing question? If not, Eric's available, and he would love to talk to you because he's on LA time, so he's going to probably go to sleep in about an hour if you need him. He can talk to you afterwards. I also, I want to let you know that there's a breakout session in the Salon Diane, which is down there and to the right as you go through the lobby. Does everyone know where that is? Has everyone been to how many people have been to Salon Diane? Thank you. Anyone who didn't put your hand up, talk to someone who put their hand up, because apparently people are getting lost. I'm like, really? So it's technology and content collaboration with these companies, BuzzCity, Rovi, Samsung, MXP4, which are social music games. It's from 11:30 to 12:45. And in this room, do you know what we have next, Eric?
Yes, we have a last session, I think.
We are so organized.
Well, no, it's in fact, I didn't realize I had to do that one as well. So Ewan McLeod?
Ewan, is he
Ewan?
here? He's going to do some crowdsourced wrap-up. Is he here? No, he's in the Diane right now. So that's going to go from 12:45. So from now, go to the Diane.
Go to the
Just
Diane
go.
and grab a coffee.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Let's thank Eric. And